This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? I'm back for another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Anya Packer. Anya, how's it going?
It's good, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Finally, we got this in.
I know, seriously. It only took us like 6 years.
For sure. Now I know you're the GM of the Riveters, and I know you were in the Players Association. You're the president before. So what has that transition been like?
Oh my gosh, that transition has been insane. So I went from player to head of the PA now to a general manager. And on the PA side, I was like totally working for the athletes. It was all pro bono. It was all about, trying to figure out what we could do with less. And now I have a budget. I've got a team. I manage travel. I manage all these different things, and I hire people underneath me. And so the transition of having no team and working only for the players and then being able to invest in real people has been insane, and watching what comes of it and how the athletes have more and better, and like the way our graphics look and our new jerseys and like whatever it may be. It's been a really fun transition from I would call it like nonprofit players work side to now working for investors that believe in the athletes. So it's a little bit of a different feel, because I loved working for the players and I loved fighting for them. But now being able to like pay for them and invest in them it's been really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like a weird thing because you kind of switch sides, but you're still with them in the
It's
sense.
like I'm on an evil empire now, but like I'm fighting for the good guys. So it's been funny, and I'll task myself to recognize when I'm thinking about it from one perspective or the other. But I will say 80 to 90% of my decisions are made from the athlete's perspective. So just what we have on by way of like what we invest our money in or what kind of resources we have is just dope, because I'm a player, but not. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, now I got to ask you, 6 years ago when all this started, did you think you'd ever be a GM of a team?
No, I actually was just watching old interviews of myself where I was talking about like the Connecticut Whale and people should come to our games and what it was like and what a different life I lived. We just yesterday shot a video that was like, if I could talk to old me. And no, could you imagine? I told myself 6-7 years ago that you're going to go from just playing in this league as like a fourth line grinder to being a general manager. I'd have no idea.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome just to see the whole league. I mean, I know we've known each other for now 6 years, I guess. And no, it's just been awesome to see your growth and things like that. And just going back to your playing career, like let me ask you, like, what was your first memory of like playing hockey?
Ever in my life?
Yeah.
I remember clear as day, maybe because my dad told me the story about a million times, but the first day I learned to skate, my dad was on the ice with me, and you got like 2 milk crates stacked together. You put your fingers in the milk crates and you like try to skate. And I looked right at my dad and I said, do I need to hold on to the milk crates? And he goes, no, I guess not. And so I threw the milk crates to the side. I started running on the ice, ripping as fast as I could. I did not know how to stop. I slammed into the boards. I got up, did the whole thing again. And I was just insane. I had no chill. And so I feel like every day that I keep doing this, I have no chill. I'll get into a new role. I'll go absolutely insane and try to do everything as fast as I can, or, ramp up as quickly as possible. So it's definitely indicative of who I am as a person. But yeah, that was my first memory. So it wasn't really hockey, that was skating, but.
So you just knew how to skate.
I don't know. My brother was 4 years older, and I think he started playing hockey when he was like 7 or 8. So I was like walking, like I was 3 or 4 years old. Yeah. So no, I had no reason why I got on the ice. And then like 4 years later, when I finally started playing hockey, like you get a jersey number, you like start to do these things. They were like, oh, what number do you want? My brother was number 8, and I was like, I want 16 because I'm 2 times better. Crazy child. I was absolutely insane.
That's hilarious. Now, I know you went to Boston University, and just tell me about like your recruiting process like out of high school.
I was a complete walk-on. I sent my email out to like 5,000 coaches, tried to like beg them to come watch me play, because I was from Waltham High, which is not where people recruit from. 5 to 6 players on my team had never played hockey before in their life. And I was playing the entire game, which again is not typical of hockey. I played from the minute the puck dropped until the end of the game because we only had 3 defenders and 2 were just learning how to play. So finally I called Boston University. I'm like, please come to my game. You've got to watch me, whatever. They come, they scout a Waltham High School game. And meanwhile, my freshman roommate was in the Olympics. Like, this is how different our hockey careers were.
Yeah.
They were like, this wasn't hockey. We're not sure what we just watched an hour of. This was not a hockey game. We want to see you play in a different function. I go, okay, cool. So they came to like a AAA game, and I was working at a skate shop. So I'm like stacking the shelves, like sharpening skates, and I get a phone call from Brian DeRocher. And he goes, number 16, number 26, he's like saying like numbers. And I'm like, is this the wrong number? Are you calling the wrong person? And he goes, what jersey number do you want? I'm crying. I literally ground a skate down to like this, pushing it into the thing. I don't know how, but I did. I made the team, and I was a recruited walk-on my senior year. I got the call. It was a surreal moment where everybody else is coming from, like I said, the Olympics or the best player in their state or what have you. And I was just a kid from Waltham, Mass that would not stop emailing them.
Yeah. So were they your like only choice?
No, I there was a couple other schools. I definitely could have gone and played Division III hockey. I had a couple of Division I teams, lower tier teams that were looking at me, were having these conversations, but I was obsessed with BU. That's all I wanted to do was go play at BU. And so in that year we went to the national championship. So it was a really good team. And so making that team was one of those things where I felt like that was what I wanted. And I really like hyper focused on it. I could have, like I said, I could have played at Division III schools, like a regular shift. And I was like, nope, all I want to do is be on the Terriers. Like, that's all I want. And so that call was definitely like one of the best calls of my entire life.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, and then for the listeners that don't know, in hockey, there's not really a Division II, so it's either 1 or 3.
Yeah.
And and then just what was your experience overall just at BU, like on and off the ice?
I love that school so much. And I made lifelong friends. I mean, even to this point, Kaylee Fracken, who was my roommate day one. Yeah. Actually, we joke. Day one, she definitely chirped me because I was number 26, and D usually wear low numbers. And first thing she said to me, I swear, we were just talking about it the other day, but first thing she said to me was like, 26, that's a dusty number. I was like, going to school, completely scared out of my mind. I love her so much. But best experience, best 4 years I could have possibly had. It was where I really learned to play hockey, where I really felt like I could take charge of my life through this sport. And then as I leveled up from there, playing in the Canadian Pro League, then playing in the National Women's Hockey League, now the Premier Hockey Federation. It was just what kicked my whole life off. I met my wife here. It's like hockey's definitely been the thing that's lived throughout my entire life. And I'm so fortunate that BU gave me that chance and that I met those lifelong friends there.
Yeah. So like in college or I guess, during the end of your career, like, did you like think you were going to go pro, or did you like think hockey was that was like the end, or what?
I think same thing. I just wanted it so badly that I wasn't prepared to let somebody say no to me. So I don't know if now that I'm talking about it, I just sound like a stubborn person, but I didn't want to stop.
I think it's drive. Like, I think you just wanted something, you just kept on going for it, and you achieved it.
I couldn't stop. So I emailed, at the time it was Digit Murphy actually, who was running the Boston Blades, which was the Canadian Boston-based pro team. And it wasn't paid. It was more like it was a amateur league for sure. But I called her 1,000 times. Dig, I need to be a practice player on that team. And she was like, whatever, fine. I'll be a practice player. She's like, stop calling me. So I get there, I start playing. And at that point, 9 of my teammates went on to be in the Olympics. And so every day I was getting better at the sport and just chipping away at being better at hockey and continuing to grow and scale. And so I played there, and then the National Women's Hockey League came out. It was like this big thing. It was finally going to happen when women were going to get paid to play. Again, Freddie called me and she was like, I'm going to go try out for Connecticut. I'm done with living in Boston. I want something new. I want to change. I'm from the Boston area. So I'm like, let's go. Let's try it. We jump in the car. We drive down. We try out for this team. And I was like, but you have to be my D partner because I want to make this team. Now I'm dying. It's on my mind. I need to make this team. And she's sick. So I'm like, you got to be my D partner. We play like 2 or 3 scrimmages to try out for this team. I finally get the call that I'm on the team as a practice player. I'm like, all right, done, bet, I'm there. So I get a job. I move to Connecticut, go down to be a practice player for this team. And I finally start to slot into some games. Next season comes, I get re-signed, go on and on and on. And then, now I fast forward and I'm the general manager of a team. And I think to myself, what? Oh my God. But I swear it's just stubborn or drive or, not ever wanting to have my life not have hockey in it by some capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And similar question to before, but like obviously the league has changed names and stuff, but like what have you seen just from being a player now the GM, just like the growth of the league and like what else, like what have you seen and like what do you see in the future?
Watching the way we operate under the hood has been really interesting to me because I see how many people all the way up the infrastructure from our chairperson to the board of governors to the new commissioner. I see how much people care and what they're willing to do and how hard of a grind it is to have it be successful. Women's sports is a grind. And I am so fortunate that I can work with those people, but just knowing how much drive they have to not be told no and to have zero quit and to just keep going when it's costly, when it's, hard, when it feels impossible is what gives me the inspiration that knows that we're going to be successful. So it's been really eye-opening to see it from the other side. What may have been frustrating as an athlete, I can now empathize with why it was that way, or see now the increased investment that we have from our private ownership group that we can now subjugate those frustrations. So it's been really cool because I can look back at things and see clear errors. And then I can see pathways to making it right and changing it, making it better. And I think that all those alignments are starting to happen. We saw with ESPN Plus, like we're starting to get the recognition and respect that we deserve. And it just comes from people at the top or people behind the scenes with the money that are unwilling to hear no. And so I know that there's going to be a long history here for women's hockey. And I'm really excited. I'm really fortunate that they exist and they love us.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've been watching them on ESPN Plus. It's just easy to, just turn on now instead of going on. I mean, Twitch is cool too, but you got to go on your computer and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, no, and the league went from 4 to 6 teams.
Yep, and that scale is awesome. I mean, the same thing in women's basketball. We talk about it every day. Women's basketball, like the WNBA could absorb 6 teams, I'm sure, and be totally fine. It's a cost ratio, right? But women's hockey could keep growing. The amount of teams that we could field, there's the trajectory is infinite.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously the 2 teams that came is Minnesota and Toronto, so those are obviously 2 big hockey markets. So
totally.
I'm sure I know there's other hockey markets out there. So
100%, and it comes from like here's the other thing that we think about, right? Is to add a team that's a flight or to add a team that's across the border takes a level of maturity. So every time we're able to achieve one of those things, that's where I'm like, oh, what a level of maturity that we've now gotten to, that we can have that team in Minnesota that's going to be a flight. Like that's a really substantial cost for owners. So that always gives me a level of confidence too when we're able to do something like that. That's such a step. I think that's really speaks volumes to how we're scaling. It's not like we're adding a team that's a quick bus and it's a really light investment. It's real, like meaningful investments. And I think that's really cool too.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if Madison told you, but I asked her this question too. And I said I was going to ask you the question. So how did you 2 meet?
Oh my gosh. Well, she would say probably, we met like whatever years ago. I knew of Madison Packer my entire life because we're the same birth year. So in all of our recruiting or all of our like USA camps, whatever it may be, she was like golden child. I was like not even in the conversation. So I knew Madison for years. Not that this meant that we were destined to be married, but I knew who she was for a long time. My freshman year of college was her freshman year of college. And we played each other in the national championship. Actually, this is the ring for it. And she displays it in my office. It's so rude. But so I knew who she was for a really long time. And when I headed up the Players Association, she had retired. She had a hip injury, then got surgery and like felt like $1 million. So reached out to me to say, hey, I would love some support from the PA to come back into the league, you know, whatever. And so at that point we had started talking. I was kind of helping her navigate this situation. Once she got back onto the Riveters, I was like, oh, you want to grab a drink? And she's like, no, I'm all set. Again, the stubbornness. I was like, why don't you want to hang out with me? So then I kept going down this, like, asking her out, going different like links to be in the same space as her, or going to like, I drove to Massachusetts to a hockey tournament that I wasn't coaching, said I was coaching it. We ended up grabbing a beer, and that was like the start of our now 5-year relationship. We have a baby, we're married. Stubborn, purely stubborn. She would not go out with me, which I thought was so rude.
This is gonna be an awesome clip. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it yet, but I'm gonna put them like side by side and somehow play. One's gonna play.
I'm sure she was like, oh yeah, we just like met through hockey and now we're married. I asked her on maybe 6 dates. I was like, I'm gonna be here. Will you be there? She was like, yeah, but I'm good.
No, so good. It was pretty much the same story.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's fun. Oh man. 2020, you were named top 25 most powerful women in hockey. So what did that mean to you?
Every time those lists came out and I could just get a verification from other people that the work I was doing was important. What a cool thing. I look at the list now, even to this day, and I try to humble myself and recognize that a kid from Waltham, Massachusetts, that may or may not have ever made it Division I, that nobody counted on, that nobody bet on, is just continuing to shatter these borderlines. And actually, my mom and I, like, when something happens, I'll call her and we'll be like, oh, I remember your high school coach that said you were never going anywhere in the sport of hockey. You know, we just like have these moments where it's like a very much like a prove people wrong style feeling about it. Mm-hmm. But I'm so thankful. I mean, it's really because of the people around me. I try really hard to do more and better, but I swear I'm only as good as the people that support me, that my wife, the players in the league that believe in me, the ownership or the commissioners that have wanted to sit down at the table and negotiate with me. I really am just fortunate at, I think I'm in the right place at the right time. And some of it is me. And I think a lot of it is really just being fortunate and having the right insulated group around me to protect me and to help me and to support me so that I'm able to then speak for a lot of other people, make a lot more change.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then you were also named last year, or 2021, the Forbes 30 under 30, and I believe you were one of like the feature stories too, right?
I was. That was a moment that I can't really describe. Hockey was something that I loved and something that I didn't really know that was going to have such a large impact on my life. And so when I found that out, I remember looking at Madison and just bawling my eyes out, because it still does, feels really good to know that hours, days, months, years of hard work and being the fourth line, being the last to be picked, being all these things, it felt so surreal in the moment that I was sitting on a list with people that I never believed I ever could be a part of. And so it was really cool to be the female feature in sports that year, and to be on that list because, a couple people that I met on social, like Ari Chambers and all these different people are part of this list. And I'm like, how the heck is my name here? And it was just a culmination of all the hard work and all the tears and all the sweat and all the times that people didn't care about what we were doing and fighting for it to be something that got a little bit of market share. So that moment was one that I can't really describe.
Yeah, for sure. No, I was excited too because obviously I worked with you, and then Brandon Copeland, who's on the Falcons, got it last year with you too. So that was awesome to see.
100%. And it's people like, you don't even think about it, right? But it's people that believed in you when no one else did.
Yeah.
And that's that's another piece of it. Like you, for example, being able to sit down and say, oh, well, women's hockey's dope. I am from the Connecticut area. You can pick 2 athletes up from Connecticut, give them merch, give them things like support their career.
Mm-hmm.
That matters. And so a lot of people don't recognize it really does take a village to make success, especially in women's sports more than ever before. I mean, you've seen Renee absolutely scale up to being like one of the most incredible women
Mm-hmm.
in the sports world, let alone women's sports. And so, it just takes small, meaningful investments from people like you. And I always feel like, in those moments, I can kind of shine back on them and say, wow, thank you so much for caring or investing time or telling my story.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like all the people that I work with are like underdogs, and like it's awesome to always work with. Like I feel like I always work with people that are at the like beginning of their career, but I see something, and and most of the time something like dope happens, or like their careers take off and stuff. So it's always rewarding just to see that always to come in fruition.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You find them.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should be a scout. And then yeah, just I know you're a big mental health advocate, and the Riveters just released those jerseys that were dope. I think I forgot exactly what they said. I think they said let's talk on it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. And on the other side, it says you're not alone. And so,
Yeah.
another thing that kind of motivates me is that my brother and I both had some really challenging times when we were growing up. And when I was in high school, I tried to take my own life. I was hospitalized for a period of time trying to figure out what that was. And, early 2000s, nobody was talking about it. Nobody was making themselves uncomfortable. Nobody was saying, hey, I have this problem, or I need some space, or I regularly go to therapy, or any of these things. It was this very taboo conversation. And now that I'm able to lead a charge and have investable dollars and be able to run a brand, and have my wife, in the same place and really want to tell that story, it was so important to me to get it done, and so important to her. This was actually a charge that she led all the way across the finish line, from designing the jerseys with our jersey designer Justin to getting to the point where she's releasing collections with Power Forward that talk about mental health, or that inspire the conversation around mental health. We see it in sports now more than we have in the past. We watched it with Simone Biles at the Olympics. We watch it with Naomi Osaka. We watch it with different female athletes that are willing to talk and say, this is a problem. Or Robin Leonard, for example, in the NHL. I mean, he says all the time, like, I'm not in a good headspace, or I need this or that, and my org is supportive of me. How impactful would that have been for 15, 16-year-old me that was looking down on myself in a place that I didn't have that willingness to live anymore. And if we can change one experience for one kid, or one adult, or one person that's looking at themselves and saying, I'm alone, and remind them that you're not, how important is that? And so I'm really thankful for our ownership group and our players and everybody around us that's willing to get really down into a tough topic and celebrate it, and to say, I go to therapy, that's okay. And we inked an entire team. And again, this is probably what I was trying to say, like, as a former athlete, I bring on a lot of resources that are athlete specific.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought on an entire team of mental health staff. And that was something that I felt really passionate about, because not every team does. Not every team has therapists or psych teams or coaching or grief counseling. And that's something that everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes, people, parents, anybody. And so I'm really thankful of everybody kind of stepping in and believing in the initiative and the cause. And we have some really cool specialty games. And this one is so personal to me, and so personal to my wife, and so personal to everybody, that it's important to talk about mental health or drug addiction or these terrible things that we've demonized and considered weak, or cast these people out. And so it's time to talk about it, and it's time to make it okay to not be okay for any period of time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I believe your son is 1 now, right? Correct?
Yes,
So,
he's 16 months. I can't believe it. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So how has motherhood changed you?
In more ways than I could possibly have imagined. You think I'm a great aunt, or I'm a great cousin, or I'm all these things. I'm like, oh, dope, I have a little baby, he'll be my sidekick, and we'll just run around. But as I start to look at my life as a parent, it's different. And it's different being a parent of a boy. And it's different than being a parent of a boy with a wife. And so we think so critically about consent and about how do we teach him to be a good man. And so it's been an interesting life lesson for me in one, responsibility, not being able to do what I want or go where I want and have a different human being that now only relies on Madison and I, but also then us thinking, what do we want him to be? What ideals do we want him to have? How do we teach him to be somebody that believes in all of these different things? And so it's been a challenge, and it's been something that we're learning every day, but what a lovely experience to have him around women's hockey and around these female athletes. Like, we introduce him to every single player. We bring him to Connecticut Whale games when Madison's not playing. We actually brought him to a Whitecaps Whale game.
Yeah.
And
I see him in all the gear.
Yeah, in all the gear. I'm like, we can be fair to everybody. Naturally, I want him to root for the Ribs, right? But I love that we're able to expose him.
Your throwback jersey.
Yes, he had a throwback Battlino jersey, and so it's fun to show him sports, and not necessarily say men's sports, women's sports, but sports in general. And I'm excited about the torch that he'll carry on for us when we're too tired.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you ready for some fun questions?
Yes, I love them.
All right, so who would you want to do a jersey exchange with right now in the league, and then who would you want to do a jersey exchange with in like the NHL?
Okay, my jersey exchange in the current league would probably be Brad.
All right, good. I was about to say it can't be Madison.
No, I had enough of those. They're all in my basement. I would say Freddie. I think, while I'm her friend, I think she's one of the most underappreciated players in the entire league. Mm-hmm. As a defender that puts up equal to some of the best offensive players in the entire league, I really respect her from a D quality. I also like Haley Mack from the Whitecaps, and I don't know her from a hole in the wall, so she's probably gonna be like, what the heck, that's so weird. But I love D. I think that there's a lot to be said about some really good defensive games, and so I think those two are my big PHF players. And then in the NHL, I love Anze Kopitar. Why? Nothing to do with anything I just said about the PHF, only because my nickname growing up was Anze. Brady gave me that nickname. People called it me all throughout college, throughout the pros. I have nothing to do with his game. His game has nothing to do with me personally. I am not from the same nation of origin. Nothing to do, except my name is Anya and his name is Anse, so everyone called me that, which I think is hilarious. So I would love a Kopitar jersey for no reason at all.
All right, that's dope. What do you like to do in your free time?
I don't have any, because we bought a fixer up.
What do you like to do in your past life?
Yeah, my former life. I would say actually that was exactly what I like to do. I like to tinker, do things, build things. I took down a wall in our old condo and put a sauna in. So I would say I'm really obsessed with real estate and home improvements and all these different things. So Madison follows me down a couple different weird pathways with our current home, and that's probably the thing that I like to do the most. I did the same in my parents' house. I used to help my dad build stairs or redo the deck or whatever it was. So that was always, I like to build things.
All right. I was going to say my last one's usually what do people don't know about you, but I think that's one thing right there. You like to build things.
That's one of those things. I think also people don't know a lot about me is I'm a hardo, right? I go 100 miles an hour. I am so sensitive and I love to be by myself, which seems completely opposite of my character, because I seem like a hard nose, in your face, love to be around people, love to talk. But I say it's my Jekyll and Hyde. I could go to bed at 8 p.m., watch a show on my laptop by myself, not talk to a soul, and be perfectly content in the world. And so I think that's I get exhausted by game weekends when I'm talking to a million people. And actually Kate Freeze, my photographer, and we have this code where I'll be oh, we need to go grab something from the car, and we'll walk 20 minutes to my car and back, and we won't say a single word. We'll look ahead and won't say. I'm this is exactly what I needed. So I would say that.
All right, I'll ask you a bonus question. Do you have any questions for me?
What'd you say?
Do you have any questions for me?
I do actually. I think what I don't know is why PG Sports? Why this? What got you here?
I created it.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to be a sports agent, and then I just created the Twitter page, and then that was 2011, and then I just made T-shirts just to promote it, and then from there just started reaching out to athletes and annoying them, kind of just what you were saying, just like just keep on like, and this is funny too. I always talk about it now, and it's just like there wasn't even Instagram messaging then. Like I was literally DMing people on Twitter and like even on Facebook too, which is like weird to think about. So things like that, and then just say, yeah, building the relationships with athletes like you and everybody, and then working with them on branding and marketing now. So it's dope to everything kind of. I mean, I'm not technically an agent or whatever, but I work with athletes to build their brands and marketing and things like that. So I feel like I accomplished what I wanted to.
It's so dope. I mean, I think so many times we don't take that moment to have a victory lap for ourselves.
Yeah.
But you're one of those people that I look at and I'm like, you should, because that's
See,
so
the thing is,
insane.
like, I don't know if I. So I always think about it, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever be satisfied.
Me either.
In a good
Me
way.
either. I'll be the commissioner of some like multi-million-dollar league, adding all these like values back to athletes, paying women like an insane amount of money, and I'll be like, what's next? Because I'm crazy like that. I think you have that same drive. That's
I
why
don't know.
we're.
I feel like it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Blessing and a curse for
But yeah,
sure.
I got my Madison Packer shirt on too.
Look at us.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you at?
Listeners can follow me at all of my social handles are still my my maiden name. So Battalino Anya or Battalino A. You can search Anya Packer. You'll find me everywhere, lamenting about women's sports, posting about women's sports, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find me just making 1,000 videos about my wife because she's the best.
You went viral a couple times.
Yeah. Follow me there, but also follow the Riveters. Follow the Riveters at Riveters on all social platforms. They deserve a follow. The more you invest in and support women's sports, whether that just be retweeting or liking or posting something to your story, like women's sports needs that bump. They need that love. Eventually we'll get there. But yeah, follow us, follow the Riveters, follow the PHF, and don't forget, turn us on ESPN Plus.